Welcome to Daily Cyber episode 281. Today's going to be an interesting Ask Me Anything episode. I've got some things I want to talk about and then some topics that I have queued up just to cover today. So it's really going to be interesting. Do you guys have any questions? I'm monitoring the chat, so let me know if you have any questions. I'll answer them as I can. This is more of just kind of a chill episode today. I wanted to kind of go over a few things that I'm working on in December and kind of getting ready for 2026. It's surprising how fast this year went by. And just talk about some of the successes and wins and losses that I had this year being in cybersecurity, to kind of talk about that so you guys can understand, where you guys are going. So grab a coffee, grab a tea, and let's hack at it. All right. So first I want to say thank you, everyone. I'm coming close to episode 300. So this is exciting. I'm really excited about like how this year has really panned out and how everything's been going on right now. Going to break 300 episodes next year. So this is going to be awesome. I'm really excited about that. Next is, if you're a Daily Cyber follower, what I'm going to ask you to do is put this in your calendar. Right, every Wednesday, unless something comes up, I'm going to be doing a Daily Cyber. I've really worked that into my schedule this year. After being let go of an organization, I decided, like, you know what, this is really essential for me to giving back to the community. Also, it helps me learn and develop my skills and my knowledge too, because I do research. I prep for the show. Right, I prep for Daily Cyber, so I do some, reading and some research. So it helps me kind of stay on my toes. And there's a lot that I'm learning being an advisor consultant. Right, and I'm going to talk a little bit about like kind of myself and what I'm working on, what I'm doing, in just a second. But being a consultant, I'm in different environments constantly. It's not the same thing over and over again. I'm working with different clients, different industries, talking about different things. And it helps me stay on my toes, because what happens is not one company is the same. And then the industries are completely different on their requirements. Now, there's some baseline things that, you guys all know, like EDR, SIM, DLP, identity access management, privilege management, stuff like that. That's kind of common across, but the different levels of maturity and the solutions and the technology they use, and then compliance and regulatory, there's all different, and it keeps you on your toes as you're going through this. So it's really exciting to be able to be an advisor with these different organizations to learn and develop with them. So I'm really excited about that. So like I said, put in your calendar every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, depending on where you are in the world. Come out, ask questions, be part of the community. There's a lot going on. I know Neil has done a great job of building the community. The moderators have done a great job to engage and provide value and have great conversations with the community. So something I really want to promote and say, look, you know what, jump in, really kind of get into the community, ask a lot of questions, network, especially when you're looking for development, networking for jobs. Like, there's all these different organizations that are hiring, right, and developing their security programs. Are looking for guys that, like yourselves, ladies and gentlemen that like yourselves, that are trying to break in the industry or even move up in their career. So keep part of the community, ask lots of questions. So going to talk a little bit about what I'm up to. So over the last, I would say, I think it was May, I got laid off from an organization that I worked at. That's fine. It happens to the best of us. And the question came down to me is like, what do I really truly want to do? And I loved what I was doing. I was doing advisory work for the organization. I was a director. I was, I got a team that, was doing a great job, working with lots of clients. It was amazing. It was an amazing opportunity, kind of the career path I wanted to go in. I was, talking to boards, talking to C-suite, working with technical people on the security and analysts, as well as IT, to work with, executive senior leadership and the board of directors. So it was really something I love to do. And it gave me exposure to both sides. Right. Now, when I lost my job and got laid off, it was like, okay, what do I want to do? I had the mindset and the fortitude for myself to open up my own company and go with it. And then, I mean, we're talking about May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So we're talking about 8 months. I'm completely, amazed of how quickly I was able to build my client base or customer base. Cause I mean, I constantly work with them, my customer base, being able to build up my revenue, build up, people that I'm working with, my partners, my colleagues, things along that line, and really have the success that I'm looking for. And I share that with you to say it's possible, but you have to have some key foundations. And something I was talking to a colleague yesterday about, like, if you get a chance, write this down. Key people you want to have in your corner, right? And you want to have the right people. You want to have an accountant, right? The right accountant that you can trust. You understand their process. You understand their business model. You've got referrals. You understand they're a good accountant. A financial advisor, someone that's going to advise you on your finances and being able to plan accordingly with your accountant, how much you might make, how much you're going to invest, how much you're going to strategize. Now, some people do on their own. I'm not saying that, but this is a team to have with you so you can collaborate and work with, right? You want to have a good lawyer, right? Someone that understands business, right? And understands like estate, business, things along that line that you can work with. Because I know for myself, one of the things I had to spin up quickly was contracts. I had a database, and I pulled from SANS. I had a database of policies that I just had to reword and formalize. So I went through with the lawyer and said, okay, review all these policies that I have internally for myself, as well as templates that I have for customers I work with, and then make sure they're at a state where I can start to give them to people. And there's no risk or liability or information that shouldn't be there. And we can template some areas. So I create that with a lawyer that is one of my partners that I trust. So again, accountant, financial advisor, lawyer, and then some sort of business advisor or mentor that you're going to collaborate with. Now, this could be a career mentor if you're in cybersecurity and you're going the career path, or this could be a business mentor that's going to help you understand the pitfalls and some challenges of business that they've gone through, and they're able to help you because, and I'm going to be very clear here, right? Doesn't matter how much you know, there's going to be situations you're going to run into that someone's already went through it and they know how to get through it, versus you spending weeks, days, weeks, months, hours, whatever that may be, going through that situation. If you talk to this person who's a mentor, maybe you've been in business for 10, 15, 20 years, and you go, I'm coming across this, they'll go, yes, I dealt with that. How are you doing with this? Well, and are you through it, or are you just starting it? And you can say like, hey, I'm just starting it. This is really a challenge. And they say, okay, have you done these 4 things, 5 things? You're like, I've done 3. What's that 4th thing? And they'll say, okay, do that 4th thing, and that will help to get you through. And you go, I've been looking, I never knew about that 4th thing. And they said, yeah, I found out from a colleague, a friend that I talked to who said to do that 4th thing. And all of a sudden, that puzzle challenge you're going through, instead of you spending weeks, even months going through, now it's hours of days. And you get that done, and then you're through it. And that's what they're there for, because they have the experience of going through different scenarios and situations that you might not go through, or you might not have thought of, that they've gone through and they've already had to go through that challenge themselves. So I lay that out as people want to be advisors, consultants, want to build up their own company and organization. Have that team with you that you can collaborate, you can consult with, you can work with day in and day out. I think it's key, and I think it's key to vet them out, make sure they're the right people, make sure they've done good work with other colleagues and people, make sure they're a reputable organization, especially when we're looking at IT and security. You got to do your third-party due diligence, right? Do they have the security in place? Do they have the process in place? Do they have, the way of protecting your business? Do they have NDAs you can sign? Like, all these things you need to think about through the process from each of those partners. Make sure they do that, because you want to be protected. I mean, it's thing that you're going to learn from security. If you're in it, if you're not in your IT transition, it's trust, but verify. Have these check marks in place and make sure that you do that. And I think that's important. I learned my lesson. I've had some really good accountants and bookkeepers. I've had some really challenging ones I had one I was talking about to my colleague. I had one and I was using a software solution that the accountant could log in, review all my journal entries and my invoices, like everything, all my entries in there, all, in the cloud, all secure. They can all get access to it. The accountant and the bookkeeper I tried to work with wanted everything printed out. I'm like, you can't do that. Like, it's going to take me more time. Like, can't you just log in? No, that's not our process. We don't do that. We actually need to go and get printed copies and do that. We have I'm like, yeah, no, like, we're not the right fit. I need someone that can securely two-factor authentication, with a pass key, log into my solution. They have, a role-based access where I can delegate them and they have certain access, and they can go in and be able to now administrate my accounting and do that properly. So things to think about. And as you do it, and it's okay to say no, and it's okay to let go of a partner that's not the right fit. Now, I'm not going to do it in a rude way, and I don't recommend you do that the same thing, but just not the right fit. It's not the right fit. We have a process that I work through, and I'm just looking for the right fit of the partner that can collaborate and work with my processes. That's really how I said it. And then they were like, no, I totally get it. Right. You're not always going to be the right fit for every single partner, but there's going to be a partner out there that's going to be the right fit. So just kind of think about that. And I think that's really key as you're building out your partners, the relationships, your key people, because again, the important part of it is having the right team. Next is, like I was saying, my goal is, and I'll kind of go through it. So having all that set up, all those partners, getting on the contracts, getting everything set up, and then going out there. I was fortunate enough to connect with a few great partners, MSPs that were looking for advisories to offer out that service. And they had great, strong teams, great people. And I was able to do that very quickly and then start getting clients on fast, right? It was, if a week, 2 weeks tops. Like, I was thinking when I got laid off, I had to build out my marketing strategy, my prospecting strategy, cold calling for the next 60, 90 days. Within probably about, and I'm going to give this estimate, I would say 30 days, I was at like baseline, making income, being able to cover my costs and my expenses, revenue. Right. By I think day 60, I was close to my capacity. Right. And I was like, awesome. Like, this is great. I can take on, a couple more customers. And then, like, if I have to, I was starting to build out relationships to bring people in as contractors, as consultants, to be able to work with me on certain engagements if need be. So I'm at this point right now where I'm in a good position. I have some bandwidth where I can take on potentially one or two more customers. But other than that, I'm in a good space and I'm loving the people I'm working with, partners, customers, their customers, right? The teams that I'm working with, it's amazing. So I lay that out for you thinking in one set. A lot of people, including myself, get into a position or a job, and sometimes we feel stuck. Now, we have to evaluate. Is it us? Is it the company? Is it the people we're working with? What is it's not the right fit? And can you talk to the team? And I don't want you to jump companies. I don't want you quietly quitting or anything like that. But can you talk to them and maybe readjust and kind of figure that out? If so, great. If it's not the right fit, you have options. Now, I'm saying build something out, look around, whatever direction you want to go. Now, if you're not a business person, and again, you have to have that right mindset of an entrepreneur and being able to build a business while doing your work. Some people don't want to do that, and that's okay. You might want to work for someone because you want them to do the overhead and you just want to go in and do your job, right? You love what you do and you want to do your job. Well, there's a lot of organizations and companies out there that are hiring, right? I'm hearing colleagues that are, not happy with one position, moving to another one, and they're now in a better position, better company. They have a better, relationship with their team and all that, and they're enjoying it. The one thing that's what I'm talking about at the start was networking. They're networking like crazy. They're talking to colleagues, they're talking to partners, they're talking to people they know and saying, hey, I'm looking, I'm really hungry to find another position, and this is what I need to do. Now, this doesn't negate training, education, certification, getting your expertise and things along that line. You need to get that. You need to keep, building your skill set. But the bonus of that while you're doing that is then you can start to look out. You can start to look at different opportunities. I know several colleagues that I've been talking to, or probably over the last 30 days, that have job requisitions out there that are looking at hiring certain people, right? Security engineers, security analysts, level 1, level 2 security people, like just all different areas. Because you got in the industries now, companies are expanding, right? They're expanding, they're understanding the importance of security and what needs to be done, and they want to have the right people. So I share that with you to say, look, you have options. Now, if you love what you do and you're in a company and a job and a career that you love to do, keep learning, keep developing, keep doing what you're doing. All right. So for me, that has got, like, again, recap, having the right partners, right team, right? Accountant, financial advisor, lawyer, right? And even the potential. And I have Neil sometimes I lean on too for my business / advisor, kind of leaning on those people, and then executing. That's the other thing I want to put in place here is, right? Execution. Speed of implementation is one of the terms I learned from Eben Pagan. As fast as you learn something, create a plan and a strategy and execute, right? Execute. Then measure the results and then rinse and repeat. Do the plan, execute, measure results. Keep doing that, right? If you can do that, it's not going to be successful all the time, but at least you can kind of figure out, okay, what am I doing wrong? What are my challenges, right? And take ownership. I missed that. I didn't do this. That happened. And then go back and fix it. And then now be better the next time and keep doing that. Right? Now, there's going to be stuff in the sense of when we look at security, due diligence is extremely important. Don't implement something unless you've done your due diligence, you've done your testing, and you know it's going to execute and work well, right? That negates a little bit of the speed of implementation, but the speed of implementation could be planning and testing, right? And doing your due diligence. How fast can you start doing that? And I don't mean speed in the sense of, you're rushing, but can you get it efficiently done? Like, it's not taking, I'll use an example. If I was going to say, look, I need to do some threat hunting, I got an alert that one endpoint was showing malware. I'm not going to leave it there for days, weeks. I'm going to note that and look at the criticality. If it's the criticality is high, right? I'm going to say, okay, I need to investigate that immediately. Is it a false positive? Is it a false negative? Is it true? And then start going through what is that? What is the vulnerability? What is being executed? What's happening? And then look at a plan of remediation. Now, I might have to shut down an endpoint, do something along that line, whatever that may be, but I'm going to execute that plan pretty quickly and get the right people in place. Now, on the other side, say, for example, we're talking about a telecommunication project, right? You're doing a rollout or even a switchover of someone's phone systems. Speed of implementation and doing it quickly doesn't mean I'm going to do it. They tell me they need to transfer the phones over on Wednesday. I'm not going to have it completed by Friday. And again, I'm using that. Say they have 500 to 1,000 phones, but I am going to start looking at the planning quickly, right? I'm going to be efficient now. Okay, let me look at the planning. How many phones, how many locations, what their phone types are. Are they voice over IP? Do we have the right hardware? Do we need to update anything? Like, I'm going to start looking at that, get my inventory, start planning it out, talking to the partners and vendors, and what do I need to do? And start looking at scheduling things, right? That's more the speed of implementation. So I can have a roadmap and a plan of action of how we're going to execute on this. Dates, times, locations, rollback plans, things like that. And that's going to be my speed of implementation. So then what happens is within a week, I'm going to have the roadmap. I'm going to have the plan of what we're going to execute and when, and then we're going to start working with the team to be able to execute that. Now, it might be in a phased approach. I might have multiple locations, and phase one is our proof of concept. We're going to do their location first, make sure everything works, do standard operating procedures, start doing guides. So then we start doing the other locations. Say there's 5, 10, 15, 20 locations. The team can now follow that, playbook and go through it for the rest of the locations. And I'm going to have that. Now the rest of the locations should be faster, right? Because we've done the proof of concept, we've done the testing, we knew the challenge we ran into, we document everything, and now we'll look at location 2. Does it run smoothly? Then start working on the rest of the locations and drive that out. I give that example. So something you can think about is how quickly are you implementing things? For me, studying, working out, things like that, speed of implementation. What do I need? How am I going to study? What's the benefits going to be? And then I get into it. I start working on that. Like if not that day, the next day I start to plan it out. So I lay that out for you guys is that's what I'm thinking for this year. Like what did I achieve this year in 2025? You know, open my company back. It was kind of funny. Someone asked me that, like, how long have you had your company? I said, I actually have had it since 2001. Like, whoa, that's crazy. I thought you just opened it. No, I had it on shelf because I was working for a company. I didn't want to moonlight. I wanted to kind of keep, the employment agreement. There was no moonlighting. Just, you have to focus on the organization. Totally agree with that. So I shelved my company, got my accountant to say, okay, put it on hold for now, if just in case I need it later. Shelved that, got back into it once I got laid off and just executed and just moved quickly to the point where now, like, okay, what does year 2 look like? Well, what does my next year look like? 2026. And right now I'm looking at, okay, how do I expand? How do I grow? Right? What do I look at for my team? Like who's going to be on my team for next year? Right? Am I going to look at, bringing in other consultants? Then that's potential, right? How fast and strategically do I want to grow? Right? Having the right team members in place so that I can look at twofold. I'm not going to have, and I want to be very clear, I'm not going to have just consultants that just do work. I also need them to do like 80% customer work, 20% business work internally. Build up processes, build up strategy, build up the department, look at things that we need as an organization from people, process, and technology, right? And build that out together as a team. I want them to be invested in that because what we do together, we're going to do with ourselves as well as our customers. And I want to have it in the point where they're building something that they can feel great about, that they come into day in and day out. So I'm really excited about that. That's going to be my Q1 of 2026. And then the next things like I'm working on is just keeping up with my health and wellness. I mean, I think the biggest thing that goes for me, and I've talked to other colleagues, when we get busy, when we get stressed, and I'll talk about myself, when I get busy, when I get stressed, I stop working out. I stop doing the things I need to do to be healthy, right? And to be top energy, kind of do the things I want to do. Because I'm busy, I'm working, I'm dealing with clients, I'm doing contracts and invoices and this and that and all that. And working out takes a back seat. So getting back into it for myself, I was like, okay, you know what? I got to get up earlier. If I'm going to do the things that are the most uncomfortable, the things that I need to do, but I'm having a challenge to do, I'm going to do those first. I'm going to do first in the day. So what I do is I work out first thing in the morning. I get up early in the morning, 5 o'clock most mornings, work out, exercise, do the things I need to do, get them done before I start to spin up into work. Because I don't know if you're like me, once you get into work, you're so busy, back-to-back meetings, emails, calls, things along that line. Eventually, like you get it like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, you're done. And it's like, you're exhausted. There's nothing else you can do. Like, you're just like, okay, I'm completely done. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not going to study. I'm not going to do anything else. So 5 o'clock to about 6, I work out, do some studying in the morning, get everything done by about 7, take my dog out for a walk. And then by 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm sat down ready to work. Right. So something to think about for yourself. Now, if you do that at 5 o'clock, that means you're probably going to bed a little bit earlier. And I go to bed earlier, probably around 9:30 because of that. Right. So I can get a good night's sleep, get some rest and repair, and then rinse and repeat and do that again. So something to think about for yourself. The more healthy you are, the more cognitive you have, the more connectivity you have for your brain and your mind, your thinking, your processing, the more bandwidth you have to deal with stress. And I bring that up is one of the things I see when it comes to cybersecurity, and it's interesting, the people that have the most experience in cybersecurity, I find are generally the most chill and relaxed because they've dealt with fires. They've dealt with things that like challenges day in and day out. And when you do, you realize like, okay, this is just another incident. And then we're just going to go through it. I know the process. I know what I need to do. And here's what we need to do. No, I don't need to freak out. Don't need to get upset. Don't need to kind of go that direction. Just need to get my work done. Right. And make sure we get our milestones completed and get us through this. Right? Where I've seen people where are tired, fatigued, stressed, overwhelmed, right? And they have no bandwidth, like none at all. And I don't question them. I don't judge them. I just understand they're tired. They're fatigued. Like this is a lot. Right. And when you go through stuff like that with people and you're in the weeds with them, you get that very quickly. And you want to have people that are leading the charge that have more bandwidth, because they're going to take on more. They're going to take on reporting to leadership, dealing with the incidents, dealing with partners, and, you know, from counsel to carrier to outside vendors. You want them to have the bandwidth so they get it. Okay, we're doing this, moving on. Okay, what's happening? We got a roadblock here. How we remove that? Okay, we got threat actor negotiations going that. Like you want them to be able to be present, knowledgeable of what's going on, and be able to manage the situation all sides. Right. So that's why I'm saying for you guys, right, please work out, please take care of yourself, eat right, drink lots of water, make sure you get exercise and move, because it's going to help you in your day to day. Was there anything else I wanted to share with you? Oh, going back to speed of implementation. So I was talking to a customer yesterday, and we were talking about, you know, compromise and things along that line. And it hit me when I was talking to them, and I asked them a few times, have you done X? You know, you've talked to the tech team. They brought me in as a security consultant to have a conversation with you. You know, have you done what they've asked? It's been about a week. What have you gone through that checklist, and what have you completed at this point? And talking through with them and realizing they haven't, and hearing them still talk about, well, I'm concerned about X, Y, and Z. I'm still concerned I'm compromised. I'm still not. Well, have you reset your accounts? Have you installed the EDR, the endpoint detection and response tool? Have you did this? Have you done that? Have you done that? No, but I think my accounts are still compromised. Yes. Like if you're in an account, right, and it's been compromised, right, don't use that account to reset your passwords, right? I mean, we all know that, right? Because then you're just getting the threat actor your passwords again and going through that whole scenario, right? And they've get the link and they can reset your password for you because they're in your email. So I'm like, okay. I realized that, and I sat back and I said, okay, there's two directions we can take. And I pulled off. I said, look, you know what? I'll talk with the team, and we'll get back to you with some instructions on what to do. Anytime we look at security, we look at people, we look at processes, and we look at technology. Is the technology working the way it should? Do we have security controls and EDR and antivirus and two-factor authentication and passkeys and things like that are securing the account, the systems, the computer? Do you have least privileges? Are you using a user account versus an administrative account to do most of your day-to-day stuff? So at least malware and things like majority of the time, I'm not saying all, but majority of the time can't execute, because maybe you have restrictions that you can't install things. You can't write to the disk, you can't write to C drive, you can't write to the hard drive. So it kind of restricts malware from executing as much as possible. So you kind of restrict as much as you can to harden that device, right? And that person, well, the technology, right? I'm going back to technology. So you have those things in place. So then you look at process. Are people following the due diligence process of what they should do to make sure everything's secure? They're not clicking on links. They're not clicking on emails. They're notifying people about phishing campaigns and alerts and things like that. They're concerned or suspicious about. Are they doing the right processes to make sure they're secure? Right? And then you look at people. You look at, are they the type of people that you should be giving privileged access and confidential access to, or are they an actual risk to the organization? And I found, as I was talking through this, there's the potential, right, for all three, right? And you have to look at, how do you practice and secure? If it's the individual, you have to go through training, right? You have to do cybersecurity awareness training. That's what I told the partner that brought me in. I said, look, I feel the person's kind of overwhelmed, really kind of challenged what they're doing. So they'll need training. They'll need cybersecurity training. They'll need to reduce their access and their privilege right now in the meantime. Just because if a threat actor is in the environment, they keep kind of making the same mistakes, then it's just whack-a-mole. You secure one thing and they come back in. They secure one thing, they come back in. It's rinse and repeat. So then they'll have to look at securing the individual, locking down the accounts, reducing the privilege and access from that individual, but installing or refreshing the systems, mobile device, laptop, things along that line, making sure it's secured, making sure they're doing their best practice, and then monitor that device with very limited privileges to see if the threat actor is still in there and see if they start getting alerts. Now, if they clean the device and they don't see any activity, they don't see any external IP addresses or any payloads or any RDP or remote tools, any remote access, then at least you hope you're more secure. And then you just monitor the accounts for, and I'd say for this individual, probably the next 30 days. And then from there, you start to slowly elevate their privilege and their access, right, to non-secure areas, right, non-confidential areas that maybe that have a little bit more privilege, but would not be an impact to the organization. And you start seeing them monitor that, and you start doing it, and to the point where they get back to where they currently were, right? So I bring that up is we're going to deal in cybersecurity with people, process, or technology, or all three, or a combination of two areas. And you have to think of what do you need to do to secure that environment. Sometimes it's just a password reset, making sure they have malware and executing, make sure you're doing a deal with alerts. And that's really it. And you kind of, you have it locked down. Sometimes it's the other two, process and people. So you really have to draw it out how you need to protect that. And here's the other thing. You got to be able to have the tough conversations, right? Because as someone that's in security, if you have to call a spade a spade, spade's a spade. If the individual's a risk to the organization, then the individual's a risk, right? I've dealt with situations where I've worked with organizations where it's the third or fourth incident for that individual, and now you have to have a hard conversation with senior leadership and say, look, I don't know if they're the right person for that position or role because of the access they have. You might have to limit their access because they keep doing the same thing over and over again. And as we know, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is insanity, right? If you keep thinking, oh, well, yeah, they're not going to send money to a threat actor, right, from an ACH transfer, and they do it again, and they do it again, and they do it again. Well, okay, hold on. Like, first, it's an accident. Second, okay, there's questionable. Third, now that's almost intentional, right? Because they're now they're knowing that they're doing that mistake, and they've been warned, right? Like, they should be warned. There should be some due diligence on that side that each time they have an incident, they should go through training. They should have information that's shared with them about best practices and processes, and they should go through that. And that should be documented in their employee record. So that what happens is, as a security team, an HR team, you can go back and go, okay, are we doing everything that we can to help that employee? Maybe there's areas that are missing. They're not getting the right training. They're not getting the right support. Maybe that's missing. But if they are, and they're doing that, okay, do we now go through a personal development plan? Do we go through something that is going to help them improve? Now, if they go through a personal development plan, we've documented everything. We gave them the tools they need. We gave them the knowledge and training, and we give them a personal development plan, and they're still doing something suspicious or malicious. Now the question comes about termination or moving them to a different department with least privileges, less access to confidential information and confidential financial or business information. All right. They still want to keep them as an employee, just reducing their access. But having that tough conversation is our role, is our job, and it's okay to have that, right? But as long as you do it politically, respectfully, right, and lay out what's the challenge. Like, the challenge is, and we all know this, it only takes one click, right? It only takes one click from one individual for a threat actor to get access to the environment. Now, what does that mean? They might not have the lay of the land, but they might have access to one account that they can start working a way to start moving laterally. That could be sending a valid email through the company because it's coming from an individual. If it was coming from, say, company at Brandon at abc.com, right? And that was my company. It was coming from me and another individual. I said, hey, Neil, can you click on this link? Neil's going to think, hey, it might be valid because it's coming from me, from my valid account going through. but that could be a threat actor, right? That could be a threat actor doing that's compromised my account. So something to really think about. Was there anything else I wanted to cover about what I'm working on? Other than that, it's really it for myself right now. I'm going to go through, I'll just look at the time here. I got 2 topics I want to discuss today. Let's cover this. Something that I've been seeing is the board wants more information, like new expectations. Like boards no longer will accept like just technical jargon, right? People coming in and throwing out facts, figures, and numbers, right? And really kind of overwhelming them with security acronyms and knowledge and things like that. They want to know, how does this relate to the business? You need a SIM. Why do you need a SIM? How is it going to help us with the business? How it's going to reduce risk, reduce liability, increase profitability, right? If it's going to be a cost center, why do we need it? Is it compliance? Is it regulatory? Like why do I need X? And talking about compliance and regulatory in a technical level because we're checking a box, they want to know how it's going to improve their business. Now, and I'll give you an example, something that I've talked about, and I'll use SIM, right? If an organization is saying, hey, we need a SIM, can you talk to the board and can you present a SIM solution? A lot of times I'll look at what's the cost of the SIM, why do we need it, what's the solution that we're looking at implementing, what are we monitoring, right? What are those critical servers and applications that we're monitoring? How does it impact our customers, right? And, partners and vendors, kind of getting a full holistic view of everything. Then I'll go to the team and I'll say, okay, if that system's down, what's our potential impact on the customers with loss of revenue, things along that line. Once I get all the holistic information, I look at the business side of it, revenue, liability, right? Legal liability and risk. And I start to look at how do I document that in a way that the board understands this is only going to enhance our business versus being a hindrance. So it's going to make us more profitable because then we're going to be able to have a better security posture. Our security posture, when now clients are doing third-party due diligence on us, we can now say we have a more mature security program with the SIM implemented and other security controls that we're recommending, that we're seeing with other vendors and partners and other organizations that are similar to us. They're doing similar security measures. Insurance asking, compliance asking, which they're trying to reduce their risk and liability. So we should match them at least, 1 for 1, if not improve and be better in the market. Because if we are better in the market when it comes to our security posture, more organizations are going to want to work with us because we're doing our due diligence, because we're doing that, which makes it more profitable because now we're getting the clients we might not have got before, but now we have the opportunity to talk to them because their internal teams are doing their due diligence and asking these questions. So talking about that, and then talking about the risk. Like if we don't do this, the gaps in the organizations, we don't have visibility, we don't have monitoring, we don't understand if there's a threat actor that's in the lay of the land, right? That basically has access to our systems. Then it's not if, but when we're going to get compromised. And if we do, the downtime and liability and insurance we have to go through will all be our challenge when we're going through that situation. So we want to reduce that now. We might have to invest a little bit now to get into the SIM solution and have a SOC and have someone monitoring it. And once we do that, the potential for our team to start talking about that to our current customers and potential prospects now increases, and that can be a good selling point for us. So something to really think about that as you're going through. Now, I've got a question here. Do you think that the real issue here is quantifying the risk to the business is a dollar context where most risk is qualitative? It is most times, but again, when you're looking at talking to executives and through that, especially with critical systems, it potentially is going to impact some financial area, be it downtime of resources. So for example, if I am $100 an hour and I can't do my work, well, the impact financially while that system's down, if it's down for a day, 8 hours, it's $800 a day. So you can start to work with the numbers. Now, a lot of times I work with the CFO to validate these numbers and look through it and just say, okay, here's what I'm projecting in these numbers, these financial models. Does it make sense? Right. And then, like you're saying, there's still going to be some times where it is qualitative, where it's like critical, important, high, medium, low. But then you got to look at how does it impact, especially on this side, our customers, our business operations, our employees, our staff, our partners and vendors, right? And what's the potential downtime, right? What's the numbers in the sense of, if we do X, then we're not able to get so many orders, and we're not able to get so many, customers today. We're not able to log in. What are those numbers, right? And that's how you start to quantify the actual numerical value of the impact. And it might not strictly be dollars and cents. Sometimes there is times you can work with the team to come out with financial numbers, but there's times where it's like, no, we don't have a financial impact technically right front and center, but it impacts our employees. It impacts this, it impacts that, which then we're down because they can't do their job. Right. So something to think. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions about that. But again, the board, senior leadership, a lot of times look at risk and liability of how much do they have to pay out or how much they're going to lose financially. Right. And both are going to lose money, but they don't want to pay and they don't want to lose money. Right. They don't want to lose that. Hey, we're down. We're not able to get, payments. We're not able to get customers, are not able to pay for our product and service. Right. They're not able to log in. So they're asking for refunds. It's like all loss of money, and they don't want to pay out penalties. Right. So if we do that, they get compromised for data compromise and they have to pay out fines and penalties and have to pay a ransomware and things like that. They don't want to do that either. So this is where you're kind of looking at the board things, right? There's also brand reputation, right? They don't want to be looked at in the industry as that company that compromised, right? You look at LastPass, right? I've heard so many organizations, right, as I'm talking about, a password manager, we won't deal with LastPass. We won't deal with LastPass because they've been compromised. I'm like, completely understand. There's one password. There's, all different solutions out there. I am just throwing out different options. There's anything. I'm not tied to one. There's a few good ones out there, but depends on which one you want to use. But the brand reputation of LastPass from their compromises has affected potentially, and I don't know the revenue, but potentially affected the revenue. So something to think about as you're going through your proposal as well as your presentation to senior leadership and to the board. The new demand shows how cybersecurity enables business growth, not just controls and control losses. So something I was talking about, is saying that as you're going through in the controls, how it's going to improve your marketability, how it's going to improve your brand reputation, how it's going to improve it in the landscape of equal maturity with other comparable companies and organizations that are doing the same work, or are you going to improve it past what they're doing and you're going to be more mature? So when you do that, most organizations I'm looking at and I work with, we're trying to improve it to a point where they have a high maturity. No, not like DOD and the Department of Defense, but at least when you looked at them, you kind of go, okay, they have their security managed in hand. They're able to deal with alerts, incidents, things like that in a very effective, efficient manner. They have their compliance, their due diligence, their security team. Everyone is in lockstep and everything's working really well. Of course, they have things they need to improve on. They always do. Things change, but if you looked at the maturity, you're kind of going, okay, they're in a good position. Shift towards a cybersecurity governance committee and cyber literate board. Something like I like to do too, and this is something that, I was making notice. When you go through compliance and regulatory, even if you look at a framework, was it Center for Information Security, CIS, NIST? You look at ISO 27001. When you're going through any of these, right, you're looking at kind of the different types of frameworks, making sure you're following that and you're maturing in certain areas and you're tracking that. And the two where there's gaps, are the gaps acceptable gaps, things that you don't do? And I'll use an example. There's some companies that don't do software development, so they don't need an SDLC, right? The software development lifecycle. And that's fine. They don't need it. Just they don't do that. But it's acceptable because they don't do software development. They don't need a software development. When someone goes through and assess their controls through NIST or ISO, whatever that may be, and they go, okay, do you have a software development lifecycle? And they go, no. And someone goes, oh, okay, well, you need it. And you're like, no, we don't develop software. We don't develop software in-house. Either one, what we do is we get software that is off the shelf, SaaS solution. There's nothing that's been developed. All right, now we might run some scripts, especially when it comes to patch management or something like that. But other than that, we don't do any development of software. And that's okay. And that they don't have an SDLC. So really think about that governance you're doing, and then training uphill, right? Training up through senior leadership and the board, the compliance and regulatory, and why you guys have that in place and what's the reason, and then making them literate on each of the controls and why those controls are in place and why you guys have chosen to mature in some areas, or some areas you just don't do because the business doesn't have that function or that process in the organization, so they don't do it. So something to really think about as you're going through training up, right? Up through leadership, and then training down, right? So, and I know like one of the terms is managing up and managing down. But what you want to do is you want to make sure on both sides, up or down, which you're going up or down, you make sure everyone understands the company's security controls and how they're doing it, because you want to make sure everyone understands. Everyone understands how we're doing security and why we're doing security the way we do it. Okay, so let me look here. Was there any other notes I have? Other than that, I didn't know if you guys have any other questions. I'll give you another minute. I'm going to be starting this stream a little bit earlier today, around 10:02. I have a meeting I have to go to at 2:00, and I have to do some prep work. So let me know. I'll give you guys another minute or so to see if there's any other questions. But I mean, this year's been really good. All right, really good when it comes to the people I've been working with, the partners I've been working with, the questions I've been asked about. I mean, thanks. Is it Homer Rods? It's just amazing to kind of see like the different knowledge and experience people bring and the different questions people bring in, because I mean, we're all dealing with different situations and scenarios as we go through our day to day. Some might be dealing with compliance and regulatory. Some might be with technical controls. Some might be working on threat hunting. Some might be doing pen testing. I mean, the sky's the limit. Some of you are doing with like AI security, right? I know that's one of the things that I talk about probably 20 to 30 hours a week. One of the partners I work with, one of the customers I work with is a AI company. And yeah, I mean, they're amazing at what they do. And just having that conversation, how their solution works, having that conversation with their vendors and partners, and when they're doing due diligence on them. So it's a big conversation, lots going on. Give me a second here. Do you deal much with the different ISACs? And if so, do you find them useful? I can, like, depending on the situation, I'll use an example here. Depending on the organization and what we work on, I'll deal with all different types of, solutions and technologies and programs and processes and things along that line. So I want to make sure I'm answering this correctly. I want to make sure I'm on the same page as you, because yeah, because I want to make sure I'm not missing what you're saying, because again, we're not having a conversation where I can clarify. Okay. So ISACs, information sharing and analysis centers. I've used them, and I'll use an example. I've used them when it's come to different clients who actually do, customers who do have them. I've used them when you look at sharing information and threat hunting and things along that line. I find they're useful, especially when you're looking at what's going on in the industry, be it from different types of threat attacks, exploits, and things along that line. I think it's essential to keep up to date on what's going on. I also find collaboration with different partners, and I'll use an example like if you have an EDR solution, right? Making sure you're having frequent meetings with them, right? If it's CrowdStrike, it's Sentinel-1, whatever that may be, and getting threat intelligence from them, because a lot of times they see things from their side of the fence. And even if you're doing the SIM solution too, I'm just trying to think of different ones. But if you're working with them, I like to meet with them as well, because I find they have threat intelligence of what they're seeing currently in the industry, and they have threat intelligence that they're pulling from different types of threat intelligence communities. So you can ask them, like, what are they seeing? What is actually valid? Is this an active true threat? Like, are they seeing this in the industry? And then you can tell you, like, if it's, something that they're seeing other customers are dealing with, or is something like, yeah, we see it's like, it's up there, it's a higher alert, but we haven't seen any type of activity from our clients who use our products. So you really kind of get a little bit of a different opinion when it comes to threat intelligence feeds and things along that line. So hopefully that answers your question. Because I know, like, as I'm reading through this, you get like, the ISAC standard. Sometimes you'll get it through like Sentinel-1 has upgoing updates and alerts. CrowdStrike has the same thing, right? They're giving you threat information and intelligence, right? But I also like to meet with them. That's what I like to do too, because I like to ask them questions. Something that I do personally, like why, what's happening? Because sometimes you're seeing it and you don't know. Like I was dealing with one situation where they're like, Fortinet has a vulnerability and everyone needs to get Fortinet, hard and secure. And you're going through and you're going, well, I don't have a Fortinet, I don't have any Fortinet appliances in the environment. I don't even have any Fortinet software, like no application, no appliance in the environment. So why is that coming up as a concern for us, right? And that's why sometimes I like to have those meetings with the organization, some of the partners that I work with, to kind of say, okay, one, why are we getting that alert? Is there something that I'm missing from the environment that maybe I'm blindsided? Like, are you guys detecting that there's Fortinet in the environment? And this could be, then also now you look at it as a rogue device, that could be it, right? Or it's like, no, we're just broadcasting across all our customers, right? And you got notified, but yeah, because you don't have it, we don't see it in the environment, you're good to go. So that's why I collaborate with them versus spending a lot of time. And this is where the efficiency comes from me, spending a lot of time trying to look at the environment, the alerts, going to threat hunting, going through the topology, going through all that, versus if I could jump on the phone with my partner and say, okay, why are we seeing this? Let's do this together and collaborate, because there might be something I'm missing. And then I can have my security team, myself on there and doing that. And then what happens, we're very efficient to kind of go, yes, it's a concern, or no, you can disregard. It's not an issue. So just kind of look at like how my methodology and work through it. Because I like, for myself, I like having those conversations. Awesome. Well, that's it for today's Daily Cyber. Thank you so much for the questions. This is awesome. Don't forget, next week I have a guest that's going to be on. I'm just trying to think who it is. I think his name's Oscar. But I'm going to have on next week at 12:30 is kind of start time. 1 o'clock we start the stream. You'll see the countdown around 12:45. Don't forget, put this in your calendar. And I just want to remind everyone, just like the key saying, don't forget, software is hackable, being connected is vulnerable. I'll see you next Daily Cyber.